out to Michael B. Jordan because he's going to be taking it off of me tonight.
Nicki Minaj once looked at Michael B. Jordan on live television and told him he was going to be taking her clothes off later that night. His face went completely red. The crowd lost their minds. And that's not even the craziest moment on this list. Because when you put two famous, attractive people next to each other on a talk show couch or a press tour, eventually somebody is going to say something they probably shouldn't have. A compliment that goes way too far, a look that lasts a little too long, a joke that very clearly is not a joke. And the best part is, every single one of these moments was caught on camera. So let's get into it. We're starting with one that people still talk about years later. Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence were doing Press for Passengers back in 2016. And there's this clip from an interview in Korea where Chris calls Jennifer the worst. Just flat out says it. But then he immediately follows it up by saying that when she walks into a room, she glows. That she has this intoxicating personality that everyone around her can feel. And while he's saying all of this, Jennifer is just sitting there trying not to completely melt. There's also a separate moment caught on camera where Chris reaches over and gently brushes a strand of hair off her face. She freezes for a second, says, "Thank you." And the look they share afterward says everything. Whether it was real or just two charming people being charming, it definitely didn't look like nothing. Now, if you want to talk about two people who made an entire press tour feel like a first date, look at Gal Gadot and Chris Pine promoting Wonder Woman. During one interview, Chris makes a joke about their shoot in Paris, calling it such a bummer. Gal turns to look at him, and the smile she gives him is not a coworker smile. That's not how you look at someone you just shared a call sheet with. And a little later in that same interview, cameras caught Gal biting her lip, while Chris was talking about the film's themes. She probably didn't even realize she was doing it, but the internet sure noticed. Okay, but some celebrities don't even try to be subtle about it. On the Graham Norton show, Sarah Silverman was sitting next to Mark Wahlberg, and at some point during the conversation, she just got up and sat directly on his lap. No build-up, no warning. The audience lost it. Mark kind of laughed it off, but you could tell he was not expecting that at all. Sarah Silverman is one of those people who commits to the bit so hard that you genuinely can't tell where the joke ends and the real feelings begin. Speaking of committing to the bit, Elizabeth Olsen once announced on camera that she and Aubrey Plaza were in love and planning to start a family together. She said it completely straight-faced. And then she turned and gave Aubrey a little slap on the arm, and the look on Aubrey's face was pure gold. Half confused, half into it. Fully hilarious. The audience was screaming. Whether or not any of it was real doesn't even matter, because the chemistry between those two was so obvious that people were genuinely confused for weeks afterward. Let's talk about a moment that went viral for a totally different reason. At an award show, Michael B. Jordan walked out in a tight sweater, and one of the hosts just completely broke character. She straight up told him she was having trouble paying attention to what he was saying because she couldn't stop staring at his arms. Michael kind of laughed it off and credited his trainer, but you could tell he didn't know what to do with that level of directness on live TV. And honestly, that wasn't even the most forward someone got with him. That Nicki Minaj moment I mentioned at the top happened at a separate event. She gave a shout out to Donatella Versace for making her outfit, and then casually added that Michael B. Jordan was going to be taking it off of her tonight. The crowd went absolutely insane. Michael's face was pure shock. That man has been publicly flirted with more than almost anyone in Hollywood, and somehow he never looks prepared for it. But it gets better, because Charlize Theron also admitted on Ellen's show that she had a crush on him. Ellen asked her which celebrity she'd want to kiss, and Charlize didn't hesitate. She said his name immediately. The audience screamed. And then, on a later episode, Ellen actually brought Michael out on stage as a surprise. Charlize grabbed his hand and literally would not let go. The two of them stood there, the crowd going wild, and then Michael finally said, "We have something we want to tell everybody." Long pause. "We're friends." The delivery was perfect. Now here's one that's a little more low-key, but honestly might be the most genuine on this whole list. During press for Baywatch, someone asked Alexandra Daddario about working with Zac Efron. She started talking about how smart and dedicated he is, how impressive it was to watch him work. And the whole time she's saying this, Zach is just looking at her with this expression that is way too soft for a press junket. The interviewer eventually asked them directly if there was a real connection, and Alexandra said, "I think we have good chemistry, absolutely." Zach didn't add anything. He just kept looking at her. Rumors about those two were everywhere during and after Baywatch, and watching that clip, it's really not hard to see why. Here's one that Amy Adams made hilarious. She was promoting Man of Steel alongside Henry Cavill, and someone asked her what it was like working with him every day. She said, and I love how honest this was, that she felt bad, because in every interview she kept talking about how attractive he was, and she was worried he was going to take out a restraining order on her. She then challenged anyone in the room to stare into his eyes for 5 seconds without giggling. She said she personally could not do it. Henry was sitting right there during all of this, and his face was doing that thing where someone is trying to look humble but is clearly enjoying every second of it. Now, Margot Robbie is usually the one making other people nervous, but even she has her moments. She was doing an interview about the legend of Tarzan, and the interviewer asked what went through her head the first time she saw her co-star Alexander Skarsgard shirtless on set. Margot said her mind went completely blank and her jaw hit the floor. And then she added that it wasn't just her. The entire crew stopped working. She said even the guys carrying equipment were getting giddy, like everyone on set suddenly reverted back to high school. The way she described it, you could tell she was genuinely flustered just thinking about it. That's the kind of reaction you can't fake. And while we're talking about moments that felt a little too real, Ana de Armas and Chris Evans had this incredible bit during a press interview where Anna randomly started speaking in Portuguese. Chris had no idea what she was saying, but his reaction was priceless. He just stared at her, completely hypnotized, and said something like, "I don't know what that means, but it sounds good." It was one of those moments where a language barrier somehow made the chemistry even more obvious. He wasn't listening to the words, he was just watching her. And the look on his face made it very clear he was enjoying every second. This next one actually caused real problems off screen. Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell were promoting their rom-com Anyone But You, and their interviews together were so flirty that people started questioning whether it was all just promo. In one clip, Glenn says that Sydney distracts him and that he has to stop what he's doing just to think about her. Sydney thanked him for giving her booty some love for once instead of it always being about her other assets. They were both laughing, clearly enjoying the back and forth. The problem was, Glenn was engaged at the time. The buzz around their chemistry got so loud that it reportedly put real strain on his relationship. It became one of those situations where the line between acting and reality got blurry enough that people outside the movie got hurt. Here's one with a genuinely sweet backstory. Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder have been friends for decades. And in an interview together, the host asked if they remembered the first time they met. They both said yes immediately, which caught the interviewer off guard. And then Winona admitted she had a big, healthy crush on Keanu when they first met. Without missing a beat, Keanu said the feeling was mutual. On top of that, Winona has said in multiple interviews that the two of them might technically be married because the wedding scene they filmed for Bram Stoker's Dracula used a real Romanian priest who performed the full ceremony. So according to her, in God's eyes, it counts. Whether you buy that or not, their friendship is one of the most genuine and long-lasting in Hollywood, and watching them talk about each other, it's obvious there's real love there. And then there's Chris Evans with Scarlett Johansson. During a press interview for one of the Avengers films, Chris was asked if the cast has to stay in superhero shape year-round. He casually said that Scarlett is always in superhero shape, and that the Black Widow suit slips on and off pretty easily.
Scarlett's always in superhero shape. Don't let her tell you anything otherwise. That Black Widow suit slips on and off pretty easily.
He realized how that sounded about half a second after he said it. Scarlett just looked at him. The room went quiet for a beat. It was one of those unintentional flirting moments, where the person flirting didn't even mean to, which honestly makes it even funnier. So here's my question for you. Out of all of these, which moment do you think was real? And which one was just two actors being really, really good at their jobs? Drop it in the comments because I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe because we've got more of these coming. I'll see you in the next one.